Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Worldwide TV Network, WomenOnTV.tv, and iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And I've been looking forward to this young man because I knew about him. All his clients tend to be friends of people that I've interviewed throughout the years. He doesn't know that, but it's fascinating. Okay, Vincent, who are you and where are you coming from with this? One of the best books I've read so far this year.
Well, Brian, first, thank you for saying young man. I'm far from that, but I appreciate it. But I'm in Laguna Beach, California, just south of Los Angeles. And the book has been a 10-year journey of really kind of a deep dive into my life and how I got involved in the beauty industry. And as you know, you read it, it's a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, that's for sure. But I'm a cosmetic chemist and perfumer down here for about 25 years. So I develop everything from hair care, skin care, bath and body products, manicure, pedicure, fine fragrances, et cetera, for doctors, celebrities, retailers, brands, and everybody in between. That's me in a nutshell.
I love what you come up with. There's only two things that I liked. And the only reason I say this because I've got 13 co-hosts, they're all women. So I'm always looking to see what they like, what smells good. So I asked them, does this smell good on me, whatever? So Liv Taylor turned me on to Clinique. And Liz Taylor, I loved her. I can't remember that.
White diamonds, probably.
Yes, that was the only thing that smelled good on my skin that women liked. I could go by. So I always went by that. So I said, if I had a choice, I think Vincent would be the right person to create something for Movie Reviews and More because we're not a celebrity, but here we go. We have 7 million views a day and counting. So all the people who are your clients and friends, I've interviewed them throughout the years or they become friends. It's very interesting that way.
Yeah.
Talk about this. I love the fact that your father was in the music industry. I have a feeling that, did he ever work with any of the drum and bugle corps where you guys grew up in New Jersey? Because it was big there.
Yes, correct. It's actually, to your point, it's actually both sides of my family. So really before I even get to my father, on my mother's side, I'm 100% Italian, Roman Catholic. So I'm first generation Italian. So my grandparents, everybody came over on a boat. And long story short, my grandfather, which is my mother's father, was a conductor of the symphony for 35 years, but also he came over in the 19 teens and he scored all the Lauren Hardy silent movies in the 19 teens and 20s. So he was a violinist and a composer, and that's how I met my grandmother. So just coincidentally, when my mother met my dad, he also was a musician. So it was on both sides. And he grew up listening and loving and adoring Louis Armstrong. So he used to mimic him out on his farm. And he taught himself to learn everything, play everything by ear. So he could play anything you could imagine from anybody from ear. So it was on both sides of the family, actually, that all the music.
And one of the things I liked about that is because when you have that music background and when you're going to school, you're learning things a different ways. So I'm not surprised that you kind of always knew what you wanted to do. And you were that fan of certain daytime series and obviously later, Dynasty, which I thought was fabulous because I remember the football players turning me on to As the World Turns. And I was karate in college.
You were a traitor. You're on the wrong channel.
I know, but it was one of those things where I didn't know I was going to get turned on to this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to watch soap operas. That's for phony things. Here I am a month later watching As the World Turns, getting back to our, and I thought it was brilliant on your end because these things kind of mold you into what you were leading up before you even moved to Los Angeles.
Actually, I take that back. You actually were on the correct channel. I forgot about that because either at that period of time, you were either NBC, ABC, or CBS soaps. And I'd always look forward to having a snow day or something growing up because we'd have The Price is Right and then Young and Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turns, and then Guiding Light. They were all back to back. So that was like the whole afternoon.
Exactly. So now when it comes to that, talk about picking up, what was the reaction of your family when you decided to move to California? Because that's a big, huge move when you're moving East Coast.
Yeah, they thought I was nuts, just like you were saying, but also was supportive at the time. The funny thing is that I at 19 years old when I did it, I left New Jersey to go be in the beauty industry. And as I've been evolving over the last 25 years doing what I'm doing, I would say 80% of the manufacturers, raw material suppliers, et cetera, are all in North Jersey, everything north of Trenton. So I kind of went all the way to the West Coast to be involved in beauty and the Hollywood and the beauty industry, but where I actually make the stuff ended up going back to New Jersey. So it's kind of funny. I thought that I was like going somewhere different, but actually we make a lot of it in New Jersey. But I just got in the car and I just drove. I didn't know where I was going, if I was going to Denver, California, Chicago. I just got in the car and I drove one day and I just stopped when I got to Malibu and I said, well, it's either here or Tokyo. I told them that's one of the options. That's the idea. You got to keep going or stop.
You know, that's funny because in 1986, I was, marching and doing drum and bugle corps. So we were like the Grateful Dead, but we were in the world of music. So it was always in the summer that all the drum and bugle corps played. So I would travel around to all the locations, and I was in Denver, and I'm like, oh, I've never been to California. I'm by myself. I'm like, let me just go to Denver. Once I jumped on the plane, I realized before I landed in Anaheim, I think it was the John Wayne Airport at that point.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to move here before I even landed. And then I said, oh, why do I know I'm going to move here? And then 3.5 months later, I moved to Los Angeles. So I totally understand what you were thinking of. My parents thought I was nuts. It took me two days to get out because of a snowstorm. My mom says, oh, I guess you're not supposed to be going to California. I go, there's no way I'm being stuck in Connecticut. I'm going to California. And that was that. So I totally get what you were talking about.
Yeah, I just was following the force. That's where it took me.
Exactly. Talk about this. Having lunch with Lauren Bacall, going to Sinatra's birthday party, because I've been to those events like that. It must have been mind-blowing for you.
It was totally, yeah, absolutely. Again, and I love all our current, celebrities, and I respect them, et cetera. But I'm really much more traditional. For me, growing up, and probably most of us, I really think like the big time celebrities were all the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. So for me, when I was there to see like the Lauren Bacalls, and it's kind of a funny story. You mentioned Lauren Bacall and Frank Sinatra's birthday party, but one of the biggest celebrity experiences I had was actually crashing Jimmy Stewart's funeral when he passed away. And I didn't crash it in a disrespectful way. I wanted to actually pay my respects, and I was working across the street from the Presbyterian Church in Beverly Hills where he had his mass. And in there, everybody was there: Kate Hepburn, Bob Hope, Lauren Bacall, Ann Miller, Catherine Grayson. So that was all the Hollywood that I was really excited about, meeting. And that's how I met Lauren Bacall. Was afterwards, I chatted with her. I complimented on her fragrance outside of the funeral, and she's like, give me an invite to have lunch with her a couple of weeks later, which I did, which you saw in the book, or read in the book, turned out to be a disaster. But I actually met the creme de la creme of these celebrities that I call, real Hollywood, at Jimmy Stewart's funeral, which is a very bizarre spot.
Well, it goes to the point where you never know where you're going to meet that future connection. And you just for it. I don't call it crashing. It was you were paying respects. I would have probably done the same thing.
Yeah, I loved everything he did. So I thought, oh my God, I'm working across the street. Let me just go in and this was all pre 9/11, so security wasn't like crazy or anything. You could a lot of people were going to pay their respects. And I was able to sneak into the church, but when it emptied out afterwards, again, everybody of Hollywood royalty that was still alive was there.
Did you ever have a makeover of the Lauren Bacall lunch? Talk about that. Did you ever get a chance to do a makeover of that later?
No, it just was a disaster. And I actually never heard from her again after that. And she was so friendly and so nice to me, but it was so, where people read the book, you'll see why I never heard from her again. But I've had makeovers with that in my whole life. It's every time I seem to walk out the door, but just not with her specifically. No.
Yeah.
But it was still a highlight for me, though it turned into another.
But the reason why I like that story is because it's one of those things. Not everything goes the way you think it's gonna go. You took the bus there. I used to take the bus when I was going to do a lot of my interviews at the Four Seasons. I was the only one taking the bus, and I was like, I don't want anybody to see me. I'm interviewing these. I'm talking to Robert Forrest or Sean Connery, but I'm taking the bus to go to the Four Seasons of Beverly Hills, and I didn't want anybody to know. I could totally do it to what your feeling was like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if anyone that knows Holly knows LA well. Me and Bacall met at the Ivy, which is on Robertson there, and I took which is a very famous restaurant. I'm sure everybody knows the area. And I just got dropped off in a bus like a block away to make sure nobody saw me, and I walked down to the Ivy and went in. And as like you said in the book, I mean, everything as far as knocking my drink on her to a bowl of spaghetti. I mean, it just could have gone, and it couldn't have gone any worse if you had planned it. And she was like royalty to me too. So it was really a tough one.
I have a feeling that she probably knew if she remembered where you ended up being like, but you at that point you've gone on to bigger things at that point, So that's why I have a feeling.
Right. I hope so. I hope before she passed that she remembered me in a good way.
Talk about this, Lillian Garcia from the WWE, who I have always adored because I'm a wrestling fan. I grew up in Connecticut, so I knew a lot of them. Meeting Hulk Hogan back in 1984-5 during WrestleMania, and we're friends to this day. It's good to see how everything's come up. Talk about why that connection is so important for you.
It's really bizarre you just brought her up. If this interview would have been tomorrow, she's actually coming here. I would have just thrown her right on the screen. She's a very good friend of mine, and she's really, really sweet. She's actually going to be here tomorrow with me. She's reading my book right now. So it's really, I haven't seen her in person probably for about a year and a half. So it's really interesting that you mentioned her. But she's a great, great lady. She's so sweet. She's a really good friend of mine. And she, as you said, she's been the ring announcer and the singer for the WWE for almost over 10, 15 years now. She also is pretty regularly sings the Star Spangled Banner at the Jets games in New York every year. So she's a brilliant singer. We even filmed one of her videos at my house about 4 or 5 years ago. But I developed a product line with her called Surreal Star. Her and her husband actually, and she's very publicly talked about she's allergic to everything. So we really had to do a clean, green, sustainable product line for her that she could tolerate, and she wanted her her fans to be able to tolerate also from a efficacious standpoint, and also be able to have people that have allergies and just have problems with products in general. Everything she'd put on her skin, she'd break out, have a rash. But she's a lovely person. If you're that much of a fan, we'll do a hookup sometime. I mean, I wish the interview was tomorrow. I wish you'd be right here walking into the door in a couple minutes.
Well, what you don't know, you're actually coming to our private studio in Hollywood. You just don't know it yet because I'm going to do something.
I don't know yet. Okay.
I'm going to do something with your film because I always do stuff on the film side. I know what it's like to choose films. I know what it's like to have good films that don't make it in for one reason or another. I don't do a 10-minute rule. Right. I've been keeping track of all the films I've watched since 1992 because in 1991, I watched a whole lot of movies and I never know what the final count was. So last year, for example, it was only 1,183. I was 700 fewer than the year before during a lot. Right. I only saw 3 movies in the theater, and the last one was Invisible Man. So it was one of the things I saw less, even though I thought I was watching more, and I wasn't. So I submit them to my friend's film festival because I'm like, this will be perfect here. They haven't seen this here. So I plan on doing the same thing with yours, and I plan on taking it. When I like a film, I never do a one and done, Vincent. It's always, I'm going to be talking about it on my shows. I'm the only that does that because it's important. That's how you get that momentum going.
Sure. Well, good. Well, we suck each other. I appreciate that. I like that.
Well, no, it's good because I have a feeling what it took for you to put your heart and the soul into this book, into that documentary. People need to see your story of how everything started. It's a great story. I mean, you've been to a lot of interesting things.
And the good point about the book, Brian, because I have a lot of, as you read the book, I have a lot of things that happened in my past, and I'm 47 now, and I was going to therapy since I was 11, and I was about 2 days on the couch from 11 years old to about 33 years old, and wow. I was literally in a session at 33 years old. So this is over whatever it is, 12 years ago, and I was there at my regular session. My doctor, who I love very much, I seen her at that point. This is one I seen for 10 years. And I was about 20 minutes into my session, and I just said out loud, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I can't hear myself talk anymore. I'm totally done. It was a light switch that went off. And that evening I started talking into a recorder and writing the book. I'm personally ADD, dyslexia. I got every disability you can imagine, from ADD, ESPN, OPP, PMS, everything you can imagine, all the all the initials. So I have a wonderful ghostwriter, Mickey Goodman, out of Atlanta, Georgia, who I wrote this book with. So I just really dictated the whole book. So everything in the book is verbatim my words, but she made it into a beautiful flowing bowl story, because I never could have done that in a million years. And I never went to therapy again. I also don't feel like I need it. So I feel like I put the first 45 years behind me on paper. It's behind me and now I'm moving forward. But I just couldn't hear myself talk out loud for one more second about, since 11 years old, going all the way on. I just was done.
Well, that actually makes sense because I was the one that everybody would talk to. So I was their sounding board, which is interesting.
Right.
But, I'll write my future book just kind of like how you did yours. And I think that's why I enjoyed it, because I could relate to how it was written, how it was formed. That made total sense to me. And all the things you have, that to me, that just means you're creative. That's all that means, because look what you created and what you've gone through. Right. People can relate to what we have gone through, things like that. That's all that is. Now, you're just a whole different bracket. You reached up to stuff. You knew exactly what you wanted to do, and nothing or nobody was going to stop you. That's all it was.
Yep. I was very lucky. I knew what I wanted to do from 8 years old, and I stayed on that path. So that's, again, like you said, it's very unusual that you really stick to the same, even to the point where I was getting ready to go to college. Everyone's like, oh, just go to liberal arts school. There's no way you're going to keep this, that you want to do to be a chemist and develop beauty products. It just was kind of weird for people like in that, in that part of the world, in South Jersey and Pennsylvania, et cetera. And even the first 2 years of college, I ended up with a very supportive roommate, and I would go to Manhattan almost every other week. And I'd be going to like Redken and Revlon and Chanel and Lauder and trying to drop off resumes again before 9/11. So you're able to kind of go in and, kind of like solicit yourself, or if you were a musician, you can go in and these places and drop off your CD or your record to be listened to. So I was still able to do that. So I was frustrated actually being in school. And that's where I actually, about 2 years in, I just got in the car and I just drove. That's when I went to California. I know what I want to do, and people keep telling me I don't, and I'm sure of it, and I just left.
All you did was you showed them what they said couldn't be done. That's all you did, and I love that.
Yeah, I tried.
I know you're still doing it too. Talk about this.
Yeah.
There's a part which I find really fascinating. School kind of that you were going to, or you were thinking you were going to, where it's about racism, it's about being anti-Semitic, and it's about being anti-gay. Talk about that aspect.
Yeah, in the school I went to and I wanted to go to was a very, very prestigious school, and in Pennsylvania. I won't say my school name to throw them under the bus, but when I got there, after I finally got accepted. And by the way, I was denied my first time I got in, denied the second time, then I got denied a third time as a backup. So I never got into the school. And what I did, and I didn't accept it. To your point about being tenacious, I got in the car and I drove to the college and I said I want to talk to the president of the college, and they thought I was nuts. And I got there. I said, I've been rejected 3 times. I said, I'm unequivocally, I know I can't go, but here's why you're going to take me. And I talked myself into going to the school. And again, I had a lot of learning disabilities and stuff, and they actually accepted me. But the funny thing, and I still have it to this day, and if I don't have it in black and white, I wouldn't believe it. Like 5 months later, when my very first day of college there, I got a letter under my door. My roommate was there with me, and we opened it, and they're saying it was from the president, who I talked myself into going. Congratulations, blah blah, welcome to the college. We just want to let you know that you have the lowest SAT score ever accepted to the university, and we wanted to wish you luck. So he thought he was giving me a compliment. I'm like, you literally told me I'm the dumbest person here. Thank you. But I didn't know I was dyslexic till my freshman year, college. So I even had to talk myself into my own school because I couldn't go where I wanted to go. And the guy thought I was so tenacious that he said, we'll take you. Because I've been rejected 3 times, which is like, at that point, you're totally done. You couldn't go. And that's how I got into my school. But when I got there 5 months later, at the time, we found out that we were being investigated by the NAACP. There's only one African-American person on the whole entire campus admitted there. So they were having an investigation going on. The Jewish house, which was like a fraternity house for Jewish kids, was burnt to the ground from like a hate crime. So it was a really, at that time in the mid 90s, it was a really bad experience for me. And I knew, oh my God, I'm gay. Well, am I going to be like really, looked down upon here? But at the time, the school, I think still even to this day, is about 80%, 75% women. So I was very popular on the campus, and I became president of my college because I had all the girls voting for me. Long story short, but then when that happened, which is in the book, so it's very public. I had a big gay bashing that happened after I won the presidency of the college, and the guys that were there, these fraternity brothers, didn't want me to be the president of the college, so I got a good beat up, unfortunately, and that's what sent me away to California. I just picked up and I left. So it wasn't really a good experience, but the point is I got myself in, but also it's like what got me out and sent me on my trajectory that I'm on now.
Well, it also makes sense because I did the same thing. I never took SATs. I didn't believe in them. And I went to an all-white school in the 70s where there was only 3 Black families out of a town of 7,000. Again, I could relate to how you were describing it. And I think my future book is going to be called The Only One in the Room, because I was always been that only Black guy in the room who wasn't really Black, who they accepted.
Right.
They forgot that was Black, and they would talk openly because I didn't act it. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Same thing in Central Connecticut.
That's a great title name, by the way. I like that title name. That's great.
Well, it's the case because every time I would do the interview, I would be the only person of color in there. And I was never a Black outlet. Yeah. And even the publicist would say, hey, Brian, we can't invite you to these Black things because you're not a Black outlet. And I said, I'm looking at my hand. I actually had a publicist from Paramount call me on the phone saying this. And I'm looking at the phone, looking at my hand. I'm going, but I'm still going to cover it. They're friends of mine in the film. It's still about the film. She goes, I'm sorry, Brian. She hung up on me. And I never forgot that, Vincent. So I said, this is never going to happen. I'm never going to be labeled. And so when you wrote that part in there, that reminded me of that flashback because there weren't any rules to interviewing celebrities. However, once I did, they became my friends, except I respected the boundaries of stuff. But again, they would always ask, say, what is your name? Whether it was a Kathy Bates or Gwyneth Paltrow. They liked the interviews because I wasn't intruding. I wasn't asking anything gossipy. I didn't ask for their phone numbers. They didn't have emails then, most of them. So I never did that. Now I can ask because when you have 7 million views a day and counting, I can do whatever I want to do because it's still about going back to the basics of this is still a great book. I will always talk about it. There's still a great documentary. I will always talk about it because people need to see these things and people will be motivated from your stories.
Right. I hope so. That's kind of the plan. I hope so.
No, I know, because I've done this stuff before. Did it for Herb Albert, did it for Sergio Mendes. I'm still doing it for a couple other people. All it is, your book and your documentary fall into that same thing. And that's a great place to be because when I like something, I never stop talking about it. I'm always talking about it.
You're the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, that's the thing. It's about you put your heart and soul to it. You decided why you didn't need to go to therapy anymore. This is what led to this, right? It's called My Perceived Beauty. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Talk about this. They don't ever clean the floors. I thought it was a great title. It's a great story. It's a great story because I flew back from Sarasota, Florida, September 10th, the day before that happened. And like I knew exactly what's going to happen. I was supposed to go to the Toronto Film Festival and I didn't. And that happened. Oh, so by the way, this is one of my co-hosts out of the 13. This is Victoria Renee. Where are you at the Grove, Victoria?
Hello.
How are you,
I am. I'm at the offices. Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, of course.
Nice and windy and comfortable out there. It looks great.
I know. I'm trying to find a place where I can see you guys here.
Where are you at?
I'm in Beverly Hills. I'm right across the street from the Grove. See it?
Oh, yep, Darcy. I know right where you're at.
Yeah. So this is my recording studio. I work out of.
You guys a good view either. I'm right on the ocean too. So I don't know if you can see my.
Nice.
Hey, Vincent, are you at your house?
No. I'm at my lab. I'm in a Capistrano Beach.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Hey, Victoria.
Oh, you mean literally your lab? I call this my lab too, but yours is actually a lab.
Mine's actually a lab. Yeah.
Yeah.
Victoria, I've never asked you this.
Awesome.
I've never asked you this. What kind of fragrances do you like? I told Vincent what kind I like. I'm always doing stuff what the girls like. So I never asked you, what kind of fragrance do you like? And then did you know about Vincent?
That's so funny. I did. Well, I looked him up, and I saw that you created fragrances and that you're an author and that you do all of the things, which is awesome. So congratulations on your success. But I don't even know. I'm so random. I wear Dolce and Gabbana light blue. Sometimes I wear sugary scent. Sometimes I'm different all the time. I'm not the person that just has one and sticks to it all the time.
Right, keeps changing. Yeah, that's fun though. It
Yeah.
doesn't get boring. You don't have to know the same your whole life. Yeah.
Exactly. But oh my gosh, your skin is just like, you get it. So what do you do? So how you have your lab, right? And you're like making, what are you doing in your lab?
You guys want a little, I'll give you a tour.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Can we move the camera around?
Go ahead, Vincent. Go ahead. Go for it.
I did.
I'm in my conference room right now, but this is, again, we're right on the ocean here. So it's beautiful.
Oh my God. Oh, it's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, here in Capo Beach. There's a little wall of accolades over here behind me.
Oh, but I love you. I love your wall, Vincent. That's a great wall.
I know.
That's my boyfriend designed the whole lab, so we're very like Tom Ford-ish in here. So we have a little
very nice.
A little
I love Tom Ford's fragrance too. Yeah.
Here's what the lab looks like. I'm actually working on some products today. So I'm actually working on two right now. This is a vitamin C toner I'm working on at the moment for a customer.
Wow.
And then we have this is like a scrub. So we have all the mixing and everything here, and then kind of where we do all the weighing and the scaling. But the most important part to kind of show you the lab part, this is where, so if you were to come to me with an idea and say you want to put a product line together, everything starts in here in the chemical room. So this is where we store all the chemicals.
Yeah.
So it literally starts from scratch. Little sitting area out here.
Oh shit! I think I locked myself out. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh no.
And then most important, let me show you the second love of my life after my fiance. It's my she's 200-pound Savannah banana. That's Savannah.
Oh my God. Are you hiding?
What?
So cute.
Yeah. Wait, she's walking too fast.
Oh my God, I love it.
There she is. She's 200. She's a 200-pound English Mastiff.
So pretty.
And the sweetest girl in the world. And she has her own little balcony out here, just where she gets to be on the ocean. Nice. And she gets her little.
She's hooked up.
She has the shades around with her meds, blankets, and pillows.
I love it.
She's pretty.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in Capo Beach, which is just about 10 minutes south of Laguna Beach.
Oh, okay, cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that area.
That's kind of in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Little tour.
Hey, Vincent,
now here she comes. Now.
Let me ask you this. Was this wasn't the same place in the documentary that burned down, was it?
Oh, no. That actually was my house. But at the time, I did have a secondary lab in the back. We had a detached carriage house. So thank God, when the whole house burned down, the carriage house wasn't affected. So I was able to keep, my business going. And I moved here to this lab here about 10 years ago after, actually it was way before the fire happened. So I had a kind of a backup lab there when I got a wild hair up my ass and I wanted to develop something, but I didn't want to come for a drive. I would just go in the backyard and start doing something.
I love it. It's so
I could relate to you when you had that, because if you've never been through a fire, and I have, where everything just melted. I was in a fire where everything just melted. Nobody knew outside the room that there was a fire. And I was like, wow, how did you guys not
last
know?
year my house burned down last year. Horrible.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
are we all in that club? We're all in our house burned down club? Yeah, we were in Indiana. It was in Indianapolis, Indiana, but it actually ended up being a huge blessing in disguise because my brother's a contractor, so he got to build it, and then insurance rebuild the house. The bones were still fine. Everything inside had to go, like every single thing.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre because like I'm personally a very sentimental person, so I had like all my 40 years of everything was completely gone. It was just like stuff like the ashes of my dog that had passed away, my father's flag from his coffin, he was a soldier, and like I was a big I'm a massive Broadway fan, so I had like like my playbills that were all framed, you know, for going back to the very late 70s. So I had like,
Wow.
you know, hundreds of playbills. That kind of stuff just like,
Oh,
you know, killed me. All
yeah.
memory. So, but besides, I mean, but all the other stuff was kind of irrelevant, you know. But when the fire was so bad, I didn't even have a toothbrush. So I literally started all over again from scratch at 43 years old. So it was kind of weird.
That is terrifying. Did you have, I mean, obviously the sentimental stuff, that's just going to be what it is. But did you have insurance?
I did have
Were you able
insurance,
to
but
recover
I'm
relatively
now
quickly? Or
5 years after the fire, and I still haven't gotten it yet. So it's still like in the you know in the works. It's taken a really really long time. But like, the answer is yes, but it hasn't really
no.
been much help so far.
Oh, that's awful. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah. Let's
I mean,
keep going.
it teaches you detachment, right?
You ain't kidding.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a hard
Hey,
lesson to learn, but
hey, so Victoria,
got
before
it.
you came on, I was going to ask Vincent about the title of "They Don't Ever Clean the Floors." Talk about that aspect in the book. Why that's important.
Well, that's a really long story, but I'll try and unpack it as quickly as I can. But it was only 20 days after 9/11 happened. And it was the very
Oh,
first day that we were allowed to start flying again. And I was going on a business trip up to Toronto. And I was on another potentially hijacked plane. And at the time, you know, we were so, I mean, people, if you were like to sneeze or cough, everyone was like freaking out the first day back in the airports. And we had a husband and a wife, Palestinian, I guess, you know, I don't know if you want to call them terrorists, whatever they were, but they went in the bathroom and tried to light our bathroom on fire, putting a bunch of toilet paper in the toilet and lighting it on fire. And to get to, it's such a long story, but it, you know, we were on an Air Canada flight. So at that morning when I was leaving for the airport, I very just like briefly had the news, you know, kind of like in the background, getting ready to close my door back up. And I remember, you know, Donald Rumsfeld making it who was the Secretary of Defense at the time, making an announcement about rules of engagement. And that was the first day they had rules of engagement, meaning that an aircraft could be shot down if there's any problem in the future. And long story short, that we were going to be shot down because we weren't going to be able to land, but we were on a Canadian aircraft and they couldn't get permission from the Prime Minister of Canada to actually shoot down the aircraft, so they couldn't do it. And that's the only thing that saved our life was being on Air Canada.
God that he was busy that day. Oh my God.
I know he was busy. So we finally landed at LAX and got these two people under control in the back of the aircraft, landed at LAX like 2 hours later. And the stormtroopers, everybody, you know, kind of, you know, came on the plane to get these people off of there. They were saying there was a bomb on a plane, you know, et cetera. And everybody around us was freaking out, including myself. And I'm always I always in the back of my mind try and be funny and try and lighten things up. So when they came in, like, everyone on the ground, everyone get on the floor. So we all had to drop on the floor and whatever. And I had this lady next to me that just was like ready to go unconscious from fear. And I'm like, I had my face pushed down into the floor, and I'm like, there was a freaking like peanuts down there or something. And I'm just like, and I just looked over at the lady. I'm like, don't they ever clean these fucking floors?
Oh my God, what a mood lightener.
Yeah, so I just kind of broke the ice, and it just was, and she just needed that. And she's like, what? But at least it took her mind off of what was going on. And this actually is not even in the book, but I had another, like, not a terrorist type thing, but again, just me kind of trying to make light of things. I took a puddle jumper, like a 6-person cedar flight from, it was at the time, it was right out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, over to Vail, Colorado. I was going to be going there for Christmas time. And I left Santa Fe like on December 23rd. It was, this is about 15 years ago, probably at this point. And just like a puddle jumper. And on our way back down into Vail, it just was like the worst blizzard you can imagine came in. So this aircraft was being around like we were a toy, and up and down and downward spins and whatever. And finally, everyone was like at the point we just like I call it the Buddy Holly plane. It just was like, it was horrible. That's what I always.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
So and we're there with the Rocky Mountains all around us, et cetera. And we were finally in like a downward like spiral, like which I knew
like literally.
Yeah, like not only going straight but also spinning. So I knew that we were dead. Like it was like over with, and
Oh
so
my God.
all like laying back, with the equilibrium and the force, all laying back and saying and screaming, and again with a woman next to me just was like losing her mind. And as we're going down 100 miles an hour spinning, I'm just like, nobody gets to eat me. That's what I just said. It was screaming like that.
Did you really?
That's
Oh
what I
my
mean, and I was very scared too. But at least I like that.
You
But
are
that's
my spirit animal. Like I'm completely obsessed with you. I want to put you in my pocket. Like come everywhere I go.
and everyone on the plane totally got it, but it broke once again. We're in a downward spiral, and that's just how my brain works,
Oh
and like
my God.
later on, like you literally like saved our lives by just making a joke and a 100-mile-an-hour spin. I'm like, that's the way I'm wired. Is all I can tell you, But that's like, anyway, that's not in the book. That's a little extra gift purchase story for you.
I mean, I didn't think it was worth it. That was a great story. I can't believe in that moment you were like, no one eats me.
That's right. No, I don't. Yeah, nope.
So Victoria, you're gonna like this book.
Also, that's like really terrifying. I want to get your book.
It's a really, really good read. I read it all in one day, and I'm actually reading it again. It's that good. So
I love it.
Victoria, I've invited him up so he can meet you and Terry and one of the other girls, and then Vincent, I'll have you on by yourself. So our studio is very clean. It's private. Victoria's been there. We don't allow a lot of people to come in, but you'll have.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Because I want to continue.
Love it. It's a good vibe.
And anything that happened, because Brian read the book, and I mean, like literally, a million things happened to me. That's why I wrote the book. I could between now and seeing you guys, I can go take a swim out here in the ocean and get hit by a train. I mean, that's how bizarre life is.
Don't get hit, Vincent. No. You can't have anything happen to you until you come to our studio. That's why we keep it safe.
I know. Do we need to get you insured? Because I kind of feel like we need to get you insured. We're gonna get a key employee.
My nose is insured because I'm a perfumer, but I'm like that's like kind of like the Rockettes had their legs insured. My nose is insured, but not my whole body. So as long as nothing happens to my nose, then nothing else is covered.
As long as my nose is okay.
Right. That's right.
That's not too much to ask. Okay, you're right.
Hey, so what was the process of getting your nose insured? I didn't know about that.
It's officially called a certified nose, and it's kind of like, and it's it's not like a real thing, but you can actually, for insurance reasons, because that's your craft and your source of livelihood, which it is for me. Like Ann Miller, one of the famous actress and dancer, and also Ginger Rogers. They at that time they had their legs insured for millions of dollars. So does Sid Charisse. And that's where I got the idea from. And it wasn't even an idea, but it really exists. So I'm officially a certified nose.
Wow.
So I have my nose certified for $1 million. So if you want to take me out, just don't hit my nose. But if you can.
Certified for $1 million?
Yeah.
Wow. That's an expensive nose you got there, buddy.
It is. And it doesn't even work real great. And that's just the best I've had. So again, I've had so many plastic surgeries go wrong. I still have to get it fixed a little bit.
I know. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. What went wrong? Like in nose surgery
wrong?
Or
There's nothing. You got to read the book. Nothing went right. I've had about. That's kind of the double entendre of the book. And My Pursuit of Beauty was about me, what I do for a living, experiencing beauty for other people and trying to get it in their lives, but also trying to find it within myself. So I had over a dozen surgeries trying to make myself feel better about myself, which I don't need to do anymore. But I did have my nose operated on 6 or 7 times, and I still have a deviated septum. It still doesn't look visually the way I like it, but it just, it was something I had to go through psychologically, and now I feel like it is what it is. But I had a lot of, there's not one of them I recovered from the proper way. It just was not meant to be for me for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Well, you remind me of my old stylist. His name was Steve Earnhardt. So Steve Earnhardt has had 44 surgeries. So he was Michael Jackson's makeup person and hairstylist, but he was also mine. And then to get this, Michael would dress him up for Halloween. So he would go out as Michael Jackson. So imagine that, Michael doing him to make him look like Michael. So he had Michael.
That's funny.
And he still does that. He didn't do it the last 2 years, but he would always do it. And he looks just like him. So yeah, he used to
That's
talk
crazy.
about surgeries, his blood surgeries, his hips, all of these things. I was like, wow, Steve.
Wow. Do you do
Yeah.
makeup too? Is this like an aesthetic, just in every sense of the word aesthetic, or?
Yeah, it's kind of a crossover. There actually are color chemists and personal care chemists. I'm a personal care chemist, which means hair care, skin care, bath and body, your manicure, pedicure, baby, even pet, energy drinks, etc. Color cosmetics is really a whole nother science
Right.
about the color matching and everything. But I do a little crossover. Pretty much we can work with anything that's aqueous based that has water in it. So if it's pressed, like eyeshadow or blush or that kind of thing, we don't have the technology or the skills, to do that. But if we had we can do like foundations, lip gloss, anything flowable.
Ooh.
So we do cross over into makeup a little bit, but not like the press.
Not the powder part.
Yeah, that's a whole nother science, which I don't actually know. So
Okay.
I'm really more of a perfumer, which is fine fragrances and colognes, and also all personal care. So skincare, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
And you got into that from, you just knew you wanted to do it? You were just always been like an aesthetic?
I was telling Brian earlier, it's all, believe it or not, it's because of The Young and the Restless growing up when I was 8 or 9 years old. I used to watch that with my grandmother, and that's what they did on the show. They had a cosmetic company.
I love
and
it.
I literally wrote the idea from, and it stayed with me since 8 years old. That's how far back. So I got to contribute to William Bell, the creator of Young and the Restless, to where it came from.
That's amazing. Oh my God, that's so funny. And then you just like went full pull into it, and you worked for big companies, right? And then you went on your own.
Well, I've actually always been on my own. I've been on my own. I've never been employed by anybody in my life. I've always been a consultant.
Oh, cool.
But I've consulted for Chanel, Lauder, P&G, J&J. So I've done products lines for all those companies, but I never actually been employed by any of them. I've always been an independent. I was an entrepreneur since I was like 10. I'm just not wired to be able to take direction or order from anybody. I'm very insubordinate. So I
understand.
Even my parents would joke. It was just like I don't know where it came from or how I got away with it. My parents were like, when I was a junior in high school, well, your curfew's at 11. Well, I'll go ahead. I'll see you at 12. Well, no, you got to be here at 11. And we're telling you, no, but I'll be back at 12. And they're like,
the same way.
Right. Come back like, well, you're punished for the week.
No,
I'm not. No, yes, you are. You're actually being like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
So I don't know. I just always been wired that way, and I was able to get away with it in the beginning of my life. So it just kind of.
Did you ever do it in school?
Brian,
where you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to write about that. I'll write about this, but.
Unfortunately, I was. So it got me into a lot of trouble, and it was like I actually, my senior year of high school, and my principal in my high school is still a good friend of mine because that's how bizarre I was. And I would actually have, when I was getting college, rejections or letters, I would actually have my phone number forwarded to the principal's office so he can give me a review. Because every high school student wants to have like a review from the principal, and he's like, well, too many people. So I was giving his private number out to the colleges, which was in 1992, so there was no cell phones or anything, and they were calling into the school to go right to his private line. So I used to take phone calls in his office. So I just was, and the other thing was and all of my friends from high school will tell you, if you talk to any of them, that I would negotiate my grades too. Same thing. Well, Vince, you got a D. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a B. Well, no, but you got a D, but I'm going to take a B. And it actually would work. And it would work. I didn't end up with a B, believe it or not. So it just was
amazing. You're amazing.
I should have been an attorney, actually. It probably would have been a better.
You definitely could have been an attorney. Listen, you can do both. You can do both. What's one thing that you would tell somebody that they're like, what's one thing that you see people doing wrong a lot with skincare?
With skincare, I'm personally, like you mentioned, color cosmetics. I'm not really a believer in color cosmetics. I don't believe in covering up the skin. I believe in kind of treating it and correcting it. Now you can't tell any woman not to wear makeup. They're going to tell you to go do what, right? What I'm just saying is I really believe in treating and taking care of the skin first, then enhancing with makeup rather than covering up. So one of the big no-nos, mostly with women, because women wear more foundation stuff. Oh, I'm breaking out. Oh, I have a zit. Oh, I had this, and they pile on. I try and cover. If you really kind of just like let it breathe and do what you got to do, on the skincare regimen side, it'll actually go away. But right, you have a real life to live. You got to go to work. Nobody wants to like feel uncomfortable the way they're looking. But if you can avoid that step, you know what I mean? And just like, you know, not try and cover it up with foundation and heavy powders and stuff. It'll go away and clear up a lot faster.
Right. That makes sense. That's the hardest thing to do is you're like, well, I have a zit, cancel everything I have for the next 3 days.
Yeah, I've always said it, you know, if I was a straight guy, I like natural beauty. I like almost like no makeup, you know, kind of just like clean skin. It's kind of what I'm attracted to. You know, but unfortunately it's men.
Yeah, it's fine because you like natural skin. They often don't. So
that's right.
I find foundations come a long way though. So now it's way less cakey than, I mean, even like 2 years ago, the CC creams that they're coming out with that are basically full coverage, but not, I mean, it's like a second skin.
Oh, for sure. Come a long way. I'm just saying, but if you have like skin, like things like also rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, right? Like if you have like an active flare up, if you cannot cover it up, and that's like, again, that's not realistic for a lot of people because they have to go out into the world and they're not going to go out with, you know, redness, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Vincent, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So when I would do a lot of my TV interviews, I didn't know the studios would hire their makeup person. So I'm thinking that person is good. So again, I'd be the only one of color in there. So I found out, and I'll never forget, and I don't mind naming the studio because I can. They're not going to do anything because of our numbers. Warner Brothers, they had us the thing, and they hired her. We're friends till this day. However, she did it in the corner. So good. I went into another room, and you know they have all the bright. And then that's what I found during the playback. Once they gave me my tape and went back, playback, my forehead was shining, my skin was uneven, and I did uneven. The next time I saw her, like literally like 3 weeks later, I found out, had you ever done black skin before? Because someone said maybe she had done black skin. Turns out they had never done black skin before, Vincent. So you're given what they hire. So I started asking, have you ever done black skin? Because I have uneven skin. I've had eczema. That's the only thing I've ever had. So I was learning from them how to apply. So think of this, Byron Allen and myself. Byron could do his own makeup. I can't do my own makeup. So it was I'm learning for you're hired. Supposedly you're the best. But asking those people that. So for me, I always wanted something that would look good, which was at that point a matte-based foundation, something light, but it didn't shine, but also that was good for my skin because of eczema and uneven skin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're making dewy stuff like crazy now. Everything used to be matted and now it's not because people started overdoing it. Makeup was way too cakey. I think it's the brushes too, a lot. That breaks you out.
How you apply it, exactly.
Yeah. I know this is so bad, but I've been just using my fingers. Like, I don't know.
No, everybody does. It's like, because here's the other thing: using your fingers is like it's not as bad as you think. Because if you're a woman that uses makeup brushes and doesn't clean those makeup brushes actually like 3 times a week, which nobody does, it's like it lives in bacteria. So you're actually because you're better off with your fingers because you wash your hands. I mean, but it's like the brushes are great if you clean them, you know. And also the makeup sponges, it really should be like one corner, flip it, you know, whatever. But once that whole sponge is caked, that thing is loaded with bacteria. You're just going to chuck it. And I've been with my friends that are girls. I'm like, if you don't throw that makeup sponge away, I'm going to throw myself in traffic. I can't look at that anymore.
I'm going to throw myself in traffic. The drama.
You're like literally rubbing leprosy on yourself at this point.
Oh, it's disgusting. Well, I bought this makeup bag that has like a UV rays, I guess, that kind of, they sanitize your brushes. So when you put it in, you can just push the button and the blue light comes on and it gets rid of the bacteria, which is helpful. Yeah. I still use my fingers. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, during a pandemic, we're washing our hands as much as possible. So it's probably not as bad as you think.
No, yeah. I just do it after I do my cream. They're clean anyway. So I feel like it blends better with the warmth of your skin.
It does. Because sometimes the brushes can be draggy if it's not the proper kind of brush, or even the sponge. Then it's great. Sometimes some sponges absorb more makeup than others. Don't apply it. So it's not. I mean, you wouldn't really say, "Hey, go out and use your fingers," but it really works if your hands are clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really the main thing about is like if you're gonna use it, like kind of put it in your hand and use it. It's really more about not putting your fingers back in to keep recontaminating the product. That's really more about that than anything else. Yeah.
Recontaminating. Yeah, I do. I know that you said that. I'm like, I think I dip my brushes right back in there every time. I don't know.
So Vincent, I've got to end this.
Probably, but you're
so
right.
I want to get you to the studio. I'll talk to your people about all this. I want you to, what's an inspirational quote that you have for people to pick up your book, to see the documentary that I'm going to pass around to my friends at the film festivals, because I know people to get it in. What would you say to them about your story?
I would literally say, buy the book, enjoy it, and absolutely do nothing that's in it. Like, don't do anything. Like, learn nothing from it if you can. Take away nothing, because everything I did was wrong. So if you can do the opposite of my book, then I'm like, then it was successful for me. So literally, do not do anything.
Amazing. What not to do. That's what your book.
Vincent, give your social media
really
links.
It's really a cautionary tale of what not to do.
Perfect.
Give your social media links, Vincent.
Oh, so I'm everything really is just my name. Instagram is just my name, which is Vince Spinnato, VINCE Spinnato, SPINNATO, and Twitter is the same, Vince Spinnato. And then I have my my personal website, which is just vincespinnato.com. And then the book is My Pursuit of Beauty, just the way it's like the title, mypursuitofbeauty.com is the book. And then we have the my skincare line, which just came out, which is Vincenzo Skincare, VINCENZO skincare.com. So that's kind of the main, but pretty much everything just carries my name, so it's easy to find.
And Victoria, give your social media links.
Mine's the same across the board. It's Victoria Renee Music, Victoria Renee on Spotify.
Leave everybody with this. If you see somebody without a smile, please give them one of yours, because the world needs it. Vincent, thank you so much. Victoria, as usual, thank you so much. I can't wait to get in the studio, and we will see you next time.